Welcome aboard to podcast 31 in the series of the Voyage to Yonder. Moving along the seas on our way home seems to take emotional energy to guide our ship. Our emotional choices create the winds and storms that fill our sails, pushing us along the waters on our adventure. When we first started this voyage, we had noticed that there were these secured crates scattered across the deck of our ship. And they were holding within them, heavy, unseen treasures. The past, the future, the job, the places, the situations, the people, the love, the beliefs. There were many stacks of these cartons, and some were buried, within the piles. We've taken years to collect and pack these crates. Now that we've left port and we're on the high seas without anyone too close by, we can feel safer than we did when we're on port and on land. And we could be more willing to look into these locked cartons. But why would we even want to? Well, sometimes some of our emotional memories can be so strong that they actually feel like they weigh us down. We might have used some of our experiences to heavily define who we are. And that definition could have included words, like not worthy, failure, mistake, less than, stupid, lazy, all those words that make you cringe inside. And it can be like walking up a mountain with a bag of stones on our back. All those heavy emotional weights can make the path more difficult. And there's nothing wrong with keeping that bag full. Some of us probably wanted the experience of being a CrossFit adventurer here. So keep that bag full if you want. But if we want to take a stone out here and another stone out there, we can do that. And it's the same with our voyage to Yonder. The heavy emotional weight can weigh our ship down and make it necessary to have stronger winds to guide us through the waters we want to move through. But we can drop some of the dead weight overboard and make our journey a little lighter. We're life artists. As we wandered about our life in the land of fear, we gathered many materials and supplies to form and color our human existence. We might have become so focused on creating this piece of art that we lost focus on our true identity in the process. We're not broken. We're not imperfect. We only became deeply involved and meshed into our experience of fear. And our minds are filled with volumes of information that we've gathered throughout our lives. And it's now, sailing on our ship headed to Yonder, that we can integrate that knowledge we gleaned from those experiences into our being. We don't have to keep the heavy object on the deck of our ship. We can absorb the memory and dump the impact of the emotion overboard. We don't have to let it define who we are any longer. We can simply let it help us contrast our true self against that accusation of the untruth of being less somehow. It's usually at this point that it's common to begin to talk about forgiveness. Forgive yourself, they proclaim, or forgive that other person, they recommend. But I'm going to take a detour into a different concept, if I could. In order for forgiveness to be a viable choice, that would mean that a wrong would have needed to have been committed against another individual. So far, so good. In order for a wrong to have been committed, we would have to have created a conditional love law. In order for me to feel loved, this action needs to happen. In order for me to love that other person, this is how they need to act or how I need to feel. Conditional love. A love with at least one condition. Unconditional love has no conditions or laws that need to be obeyed in order to be lovable. So with unconditional love, no laws are broken and no one can be found guilty or even accused of a crime. Only conditional love requires forgiveness. Guilt and judgment come from conditional love laws. We develop expectations on how someone should act to be lovable and deserving of our attention, our love, and our obedience. The wrong that was committed could or could not have been intentional, but our fear ego just doesn't care. I have been wronged is all that it is wanting to prove, because its job is to bring us the experience of what it might feel like to be less and not worthy. And I say might because we can never be unworthy of unconditional love and never be less than our amazing true selves. But we come here to this imaginary playland to play a role in a skit to see what it might look like to be rejected and looked down on and blah, 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 blah. It all begins to look and feel the same. Disappointment and heartache feels the same inside, regardless of the situation. It just might be at different levels. It's all music flowing into speakers in our ears, but the volume can be at different levels depending on how strongly we enforce our specific conditional love law. We decide for our own selves the extent that the external action defines who we are. We think others are doing this to us, but we are the ones who decide our worth. We are the ones that decide our own worth. And that's why it's called self-worth. There's a book called The 5 Languages of Love, and I use that to help me categorize conditional love laws, because most of our love laws are going to fall into those 5 categories. Those 5 categories are: tell me you love me, show me you love me by doing something for me, or by giving me something, or spending quality time with me, or by touching me somehow. That's quite a list to start with already, really. But when we add the twist of how they specifically need to show us these things, oh lordy, expectations and disappointment. So delicious. And when we get disappointed enough and have had our fill of these sweet emotions of fear, we eventually will turn inward to the unconditional love that we've really been thriving for. Right now, center yourself in unconditional love. Look to your heart. See your Creator smiling at you with such love in their eyes. Unconditional love. Breathe that in. Let that surround you and hold you in a tight hug. Let it create a hedge of protection around you where no arrow of accusation can penetrate it. You are loved unconditionally. And there isn't anything anyone can do about that. Until next episode, take some more deep breaths. Maybe in the silence, we can take one of our heavy, painful emotions, or even start with a lighter one that you're not so attached to and are ready to chuck overboard. Hold that pain in your hand. Where does it fit into the 5 categories of conditional love? Did your fear ego feel hurt because those other people didn't announce out loud enough that they loved you? Or did they not do those acts of service that you wanted them to do often enough to prove your worth? Or maybe they didn't give you enough of that item that you wanted them to give you to show you that you're lovable. Or maybe they didn't spend the exact amount of quality time you wanted them to spend with you to show you that you were worth their sacrifice of time. Or finally, maybe they didn't touch you the exact amount you needed to be touched to prove that you're lovable. Take some more breaths. Begin to see that your quest for proof of your lovability from the external world is what brought the pain. It isn't the messenger that brought the pain and disappointment. It was the expectation that was forced on the other individual. It was a make-believe conditional love law that had nothing to do with your true worth. Our power returns to us when we realize that forgiving what we've been taught needed forgiveness turns from an accusation of a love crime to just information. An emotional flag pointing us back inward to where we find what we've been really longing for this whole time. Unconditional love from our Creator and unconditional love from our loved ones on the other side. Take some more deep breaths. Look inside. It's beautiful. Enjoy your voyage. I love you.